Yeah, I mean, I think Mexico is very different than a lot of other conferences in that there's such a strong skew towards advertising technology and data. So a lot of the clients that I'm speaking to are thinking very much around how data can inform a number of different areas, whether it be content strategy, content creative, what are some of the data exhausts coming off of some of the devices that we're seeing at other events like CES and South by and things of that nature, and how can they then apply that to that business? To really think about how can you do a much more informed and measurable marketing activities when they're thinking about their brands in particular.
So what does that mean in terms of new tools that are available, or what are clients demanding, and what's being offered that you think is particularly valuable?
Well, I think it's partially around putting the right infrastructure in place around the data. It's also about thinking about some of the emerging technologies that are providing these new streams that I had mentioned, such as IoT or even drones, for instance. I think when you look at in the context of drones that I saw at CES or that we saw last year, it's about what's the type of content that it can capture. However, here at Mexico, they're talking about what are some of the sensors and some of the other data that it's bringing in that can inform other contextual targeting with other devices, not necessarily just that specific technology, right? The other thing is, it's interesting here to see them start to demo virtual reality and bringing elements in the experiential hall where people are experiencing for the first time, particularly in the European market, at least the brand marketer sense. It's the first time I've seen them put on the headset and say, well, now I get what this can do for my brand and how I can apply it, whereas perhaps we're in a little bit of a later phase in the US and people are starting to experiment a little bit more, but I've seen an incredible appetite for those types of immersive technologies, and then bringing in some of the other technologies that can enhance that. So when you think about developing VR content, they're thinking about audio, and they're thinking about temperature and scent and all these other things that we're starting to see that some of these other advertising technology companies are capturing in a lot of different ways. Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting, like in particular at an event like Mexico, right? I think a lot of our clients are sitting in two different areas. Either they have a really strong international offering that they're out here to talk about in more detail, or they're companies that are really exploring international growth, at which point this is sort of the epicenter where they can either find the partners in order to bring them to market, or at the same time get a pressure test of whether they're receptive from a messaging standpoint, or even from whether the product is viable in certain circles. Obviously there's different nuances by market and what the appetite is for different areas. I mean, as far as the valuations go, I mean, some will always be floated, some will be just, but I think when we start to see coming out of events like this, whether the distraction will either warrant or dispel some of the hype that we've seen.